Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to episode 377 of the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. Check them out at PerformBetter.com. I'm your host, Anthony Arena. Check out the show notes at StrengthCoachPodcast.com. Right today on the StrengthCoach.com and MBSC.TV Coach's Corner, spoke with Coach Boyle about his argument about why it happens in the game is a bad defense for bad training. We're going to talk about Charlie Weingroff's in-service on, really, let's just call it cardio. That was on MBSC.TV. So that was a really good in-service he did, and had a couple questions for Coach Boyle about it. We're also going to talk to Coach Boyle about something he learned about called the 4 levels of belief. All right, for the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment, I have on Luka Hocevar. He's the founder and co-owner of Vigor Ground Fitness and Performance in Seattle. He's going to be speaking at the MBSC Spring Seminar coming up in April. We have links to that on the show notes. And his topic is content that educates, entertains, positions, and sells. He knows a lot about this. He's got 118,000 followers on Instagram and 4,500 posts. He has 214,000 subscribers on YouTube with almost 2,000 videos. So he's going to talk to us all about content, how much time to spend on content, how creating content can make you a better coach when you approach it the right way, how creativity, some people think they're not creative, but he's talking about it as a habit. We're going to talk about this idea of having to be pretty, like lighting, angles, and cuts versus just doing it. The importance of repurposing, using social media for your local business, and so much more. Luka, as you will hear, is very passionate about this, so good stuff coming up from him in a little bit. Sumit Seth is the founder of Naamly, and for the Naamly Maximizing the Member Experience segment, he's going to talk about selling upgrades and really products that are complementary to your services to not just make money, but to enhance your members' fitness journey. Guys, the Perform Better Functional Training Summits, they're coming. The lineups are here. The dates are here. You can check it all out at PerformBetter.com, but just to go over a little bit: Orlando, May 30th to June 1st, Chicago, June 27th to 29th, LA, August 1st to 3rd. That's a venue change. They were in Long Beach for a while. And then Providence, August 22nd to 24th. There's a pre-con with Gray Cook and Lee Burton on Thursdays, and then there's no more Sunday. So we're going to get Chris Poirier on to talk all about the details coming up soon in the next couple episodes. Check it all out at PerformBetter.com. Lots of things to get to. So let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. All right, guys, now it's time for the StrengthCoach.com and MBSC.TV Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle. You can try StrengthCoach.com out for 7 days for free. Go to StrengthCoach.com for your 7-day free trial. Also, guys, MBSC.TV, we're going to talk about something today. We're going to talk about Charlie Weingroff's in-service. So there's so many great current things that go on. David Gray was there or did an in-service with them recently over the last couple of months. So there's just so much great stuff on MBSC.TV too. So you can check both of them out. Coach, coming from beautiful, sunny Maine. How you doing?
Oh, no, Plum Island, actually. Plum Island is Newburyport, but it is still beautiful and sunny. And I think it's like 60 degrees today. We have people are like, why do these guys talk about the weather for the first 5 minutes of every podcast? It's for Mike Potenza, really, but
it's really for Potenza. Coach, speaking of Charlie's in-service, let's start out there. This is a great. I thought he did a great job with it, but at the same time, sometimes it's hard when you don't have a PowerPoint. Charlie's just sitting there going over off the top of his head, which is amazing. But I think I wanted to see what your takeaways. I tried what he was talking about. One of them was First of all, we're not getting enough rest when we're doing some of these things, the high intensity stuff. And I tried the 7 seconds all out crazy on the Airdyne, then 53-second rest. And I got to say, like, if I did 5-minute warm up on the bike and then 15 or 16 rounds, and only because I couldn't, from a time perspective, I couldn't do more, but it was getting hard. It was really, I was like, oh, because he said, you're going to think it's easy in the beginning, and then you're going to start to be like, wow, because you're trying to keep the power up, the wattage up, etc. Talk to me about some takeaways. I know you and Joe Scazzaro did a workout based off of that. So just tell me some of your takeaways from.
So my one takeaway was we used to try the more like 5 on, 25 off, 7 seconds, those things. The problem that we had, particularly when we were trying it with our athletes, is we broke a shitload of bikes. I mean, we were breaking pedals off, we broke arms off, we broke chains. So what we realized is that probably anything under 10 probably was too short from a facility owner standpoint, from the idea that I own all these bikes and I got to keep fixing them when they break. And the things that would break when we did the really high intensity stuff were not things we could fix ourselves, because we were literally breaking the chains in half. We were shearing. I can remember Mike Greer, who's now the GM of the San Jose Sharks, literally breaking the pedal right off the bike like it was 5 on, 25 off, boom. And he hits it as hard as he can, and the pedal shears right off the side of the bike. And I can remember the Patriots, Johnny Parker, talking to me about the guys, they're bigger guys, breaking the arms right off the bike. And so that's the only thing when you start thinking, like in a general adult fitness program, that's probably not going to be a problem. When you start to try to brush that across a more athletic-based program, it can really up the wear and tear on your machines. So that's the one thing. So what Joe and I did, again, because Charlie was talking about 100%, go all out. So Joe and I went and said, okay, let's do close to 100%, but we'll do a mile. We'll do a really long interval. So we did a mile. We did basically, so I knew my best mile was 216. So I said, I'm going to try to ride a 220 on the first one. I'm not going 100% because 216, I don't even know what year that was. I'm not sure if I could still do it. So I kind of set my sights on 220, figuring that's still 98, 99% if you do the math in terms of total number of seconds. And I don't know if I said this to you, but for the whole rest of the day, I felt like I had been vaping on the muffler of a car. Like my lungs, I coughed and my lungs burned. Like it's very interesting to see the difference between 90 and say 98. Really, really significant. Like for me, if you said, okay, like if we look at total number of seconds and we say, so a mile is 230, so it's 150 seconds, right? If I said the difference between 150 and 140 is amazingly significant in terms of I can ride a 230 pretty easy. Not easy, but I mean, it's, and a 220 is, I'm going, like it's gut wrenching. So I do think, and like Charlie's point was, like he said, you guys do a lot of 90-60 and I do a lot of 160. And he said the 160, meaning 100% resting down to 60%, you really need a lot more rest. So, and he was right. Like you said, you really start to feel it when you're doing that. And it's just interesting. And, maybe your idea of, bike riding with Mike, maybe it makes sense because it's really interesting to watch. I've been training one of my friends, and it's just interesting to sort of watch his heart rate response versus my heart rate response, and to be able to kind of sit there and watch the screen. We'd have to figure out a way to maybe, if we did it, to get our heart rates on the actual Zoom screen versus up on the, because the gym, they're on the TV. So you'd have to keep kind of pivoting the, whatever you were using to film. You'd have to pivot it so people could see what the heart rates were. But it's really interesting when you start to really do heart rate based stuff to see the difference in fit people's recoveries and unfit people's recoveries. Even now, because Joe that I ride with, Joe's much younger than me. And his first couple of recoveries are much faster than mine in terms of he'll almost like he's kind of generous in terms of he'll recover a little bit below 60 sometimes because I'm not quite keeping up with him in the recovery category, particularly across the first few.
My quick question here with you and that, and the reason why I'm kind of trying to focus myself, learn more about VO2 max. I'm doing some testing with people as well, because I do think it's important. Peter Attia has kind of opened my eyes a little bit more from a health span and lifespan perspective. And even Peter Attia the other day was talking about his workouts and how that's how he looks at it, that 60-second recovery. And what he was talking about was his power was the same, but he had been traveling that day before.
I listened to
And
that one actually.
yeah, and he said, now his power is exactly the same, but he felt like he knew he was going to pay for that over the next day or so. But this idea of recovery, when you're looking at that, have you found that you've been able to improve that ever, or no? Is it because it's always like when you're going for that 100%, you're always pushing it, right? So
No, well, one, the recovery clearly gets better. But the thing that Tia was talking about, I forget where he had done something and he was finding like his performance, like his wattage was the same.
the
but
same.
But his recovery was way worse. And I've been finding that like we did one, Joe and I one day where I was like, never mind. I'm just going to go again at like 65, 70% because I'm just not coming down. And so I do think, and I think that was, I want to say jet lag. We had gone somewhere, we'd flown. I don't remember what it was, but you start to get an appreciation for the nuances of this whole thing when you start looking, because I've actually been trying to now watch watts and look and think on some of these. Okay, what were my peak watts? Because there's another guy whose name is escaping me, but who posts his on Twitter also, but he's always posting watts. And it's funny because in the bike, like some people, we kind of go by RPMs versus watts. So I have to sort of look at wattage at certain RPMs so that I can say, okay, that equates out, that's 600 watts, that's 400 watts or whatever it is. Because for us, we're just thinking, okay, we maintained 65 or 70 or 72 RPMs or whatever it was for our work intervals, or we hit 70 something for our work intervals. So however,
Mike, have you seen any effects from alcohol on the next day?
oh no, never.
No, you don't. Like on a normal night. I mean, I don't mean a bender. I mean, like hey, I had a couple beers, or
No, not on a normal night. Not
Yeah.
not a lot of variance on what, but yes,
Yeah.
I have definitely seen like same thing, because I find too because I've been using that 8 Sleep. I have one of those 8 Sleep mattress pad things, and my sleeping heart rate is always higher. If I have more than 3 beers, usually it will be higher. And
Sure.
a night or two after I haven't had anything to drink, like last night, I got a notification, oh, your resting heart rate or your sleeping heart rate was 8% lower than normal. So I think there's no question. And that's when you start looking. It was funny. I was listening to Devin McConnell on a different podcast today, like it was like a hockey analytics podcast or something like that. And you start to realize that the effect they're talking about like, now how many time zones do we cross? How many hours of sleep do we lose? And then you start adding that in, with guys like that, NHL guys. Okay, how many beers do these guys have post game? Did guys go out? I mean, all those things are going to have an effect whether you want them to or not.
Yep, absolutely. Coach, you had a Twitter post. The idea that it happens in a game is a bad defense for bad training. This is an old, really, I mean, you've been talking about this for a long time. It's a new tweet. Car accidents happen, but no one encourages practicing them. You just try to avoid them. Blindside hits happen in football, but we don't practice those either. So, but I did like Eric Guthrie's response. The contact prep work popularized by Andrew Ryland and others, is in effect learning how to car crash. And he said it was basically like crawling, tumbling, some grapple games, if and when appropriate, are awesome for collision and contact sport athletes. What besides, I know you always talked about the hang. Go ahead.
No, I'm like,
Oh, no.
that's like going to the bumper cars to prepare for a car crash. You know what I mean? When you look at what they're doing, and I agree with them completely. I think
Yeah,
that's
something.
interesting. So, particularly for football, and I was listening to somebody talk about this the other day. Football is relatively unique in terms of the offseason is off. So when you start thinking about getting guys ready for contact, the contact prep idea is probably a pretty good thing. I can remember, and this is what got me thinking the same thing, listen to Devin's podcast, and they were talking about, they asked him about, contact prep for hockey, and he said, we can't really do it because we can't have organized off-season workouts. That's just the way the NHL is. But I can always remember Coach Parker used to always talk about, we want to get the guys in and get some bumps in. Like, he knew that. That was something that intuitively he knew. Like, I need to get these guys out on the ice, and I need to get them, not trying to kill each other, but we need to get some bumps in. It's contact prep. We need some guys. Some guys have to hit the boards a little bit. Some guys have to hit other guys a little bit. And my problem is just, and this was a particular guy on Twitter, and I don't even remember who it was, but somebody always shows up with this, hey, that stuff happens in a game. You get in those positions in a game. You might as well get in them in training. Like, no, it's a bad rationale for bad training. There are going to be times, whether it's, you might get into a position where your MCL is a little bit at risk, or you might get into, there's so many positions, you might get into a position you're throwing where your arm is a little bit at risk. But practicing those extremes of range of motion is not necessarily going to be helpful. It's not like if I go there a lot, I'll be better and more stable going there. I don't think that's accurate at all. I think sometimes you go there and you're lucky that nothing bad happens, but you don't keep going back to the well there over and over again, thinking the more I do this, the more I'm in these high risk situations, the more apt I'm going to be able to endure these high risk situations. I don't think that that's true. And I think the people that say it, I'm going to be willing to bet that they've never coached elite athletics. That would be my guess, because you would never get intuitively, and I don't mean school-wise, but intuitively intelligent players would just be like, no chance, not doing that. And yet in game settings, they might think, yeah, it's even like receivers, when you see guys laying out for balls, sometimes you'll see a guy make that unbelievable catch, where you're thinking, how did he possibly do that? You do not want to be practicing that during practice where you're studying the quarterback. I want you to overthrow him just a little bit, and I want him to just lay out, and maybe he can get his fingertips on it. And, it's like those incredibly crazy athletic things that happen during games, be they good or bad, should be left to games. And people who think, that stuff happens in a game, so we got to practice it. I think they're exposing themselves, and they're saying, hey, I've never really been around elite athletes. And I always go to I love the blindside hit thing, but the one I always use in my talks is that it's invariable that your right-handed quarterback gets one in the left ear hole about once a game. But you never hear Bill Parcells yelling, hey, tee up Lawrence Taylor out there. We're going to do a couple of ear holes today on the quarterback. We're going to get him ready, get his neck prepped for the game. Right? Never.
Yeah.
They're like, there's no chance. And if you did it in practice, the coach would go crazy. It'd be like the same thing like at center ice. Like, back in the days when Mike Greer was playing, hey, we're just going to line some guys up at center ice and let them blow them to smithereens, because you never know when you're going to get hit like that.
Yeah.
And you really look at it and think, no, that's dumb. You just hope you survive. When that happens, you hope you survive. But no amount of practice is going to make that any lower risk or you any more tolerant to the stresses that you might experience during that situation.
Yeah. And before you cut me off, my question was going to be, Mike, what are some things that safely, like, for example, FRC is trying to strengthen isometrically at end ranges of motion, positions that you might be in to get stronger. You talked about, the catch, right? The catch, the clean, right? That's learning to absorb force. what are some things that you feel like can be done safely? Like, I know maybe you don't like the crawling, tumbling, grapple games, but what do you feel like that you can do within reason that might help them prepare?
Well, I think that's where I think just plyos are a perfect
Mhm.
example. Plyos, unilateral plyos, getting people just into unilateral landing postures. Those things are going to be really beneficial. Again, I like Olympic lifts, and I like Olympic lifts because of that ability to have to absorb force. I think that's one of the positives of Olympic lifting. I've never been a huge fan of the FRC stuff. I've played with it, but I don't think I love it. And I just feel like you've got to be really careful. And I've got to finish this article, but I started writing this article called Preventative or Provocative. Okay. Is what we're doing, is there a point at which we're going to cross the line from preventing injury to creating injury by trying too hard to get to the prevention part? And that's why I always use the car crash or the ear hole idea with the quarterback. I think there are going to be certain situations where you look, because like people will always show you kind of the classic one is always Jordan being in those very kind of internally rotated valgus kind of direction change positions. And people like, look, he gets in those positions in the game. And you're like, yeah, he does. But I'm not going to encourage anybody to squat that way. I'm not going to load those patterns. I'm not going to say we're going to do Michael Jordan-esque squats where I'm saying to somebody, hey, go down and try to go knee to knee. Like I want you to try to lower yourself in and tap your knees together and then kind of abduct and externally rotate yourself out of that position. I just don't want that to happen. So I think we have to be better at kind of commanding our common sense. Does that make sense to you? And just looking and thinking, okay, at what point am I making an intelligent recommendation? And at what point am I making an absurd recommendation? At what point am I making a recommendation based on I think versus a recommendation based on I know or based on my experience? And I'm going to actually pull this thing up. This is really interesting. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was about belief. Now, it had nothing to do with strength and conditioning, but this woman was talking about belief clusters. And she said there's 4 levels of belief. She said, with one, we said, I believe my instincts, right? I believe the experts. I believe my senses, and I believe the data. And she said they're kind of different levels of belief. It's like if you look at something and you smell it and it smells bad, you believe your senses. Like, well, that smells bad. It's not good. And if someone came to you and said, "Oh, I think it's fine, you can eat it," and you're like, "No, it smells like shit. Like, there's no way I'm eating that," right? So you believe your senses. You believe your instinct. You think about something. You think, "Oh, I don't know." And then maybe I believe experts. Hey, this guy has been there, done that. I believe him. And then there's I believe the data. Like you're looking at it thinking, well, somebody did the research study, and it's not like there's any singular level of belief that I guess defies all others, right? If you looked at it, I might say to you, "Oh, Anthony, I looked at the data, and it says that the data says that food can be left out for 3 days, and you're not going to get sick, right?" And then you looked at it, and you thought, "Oh, my instinct says it's been out on the counter for 3 days. I shouldn't eat it." And then I smelled it. My senses say it really smells bad. It smells spoiled. I definitely shouldn't eat that. But then if an expert guy showed up and said, "No, actually, I'm an expert on food. I think you can eat that." You've got to decide where do you sort of suspend your belief? Where are you putting in? She made the point of it's probably what you really need is a conglomeration of these belief systems, which I just thought was really interesting. And because we've got too many of the evidence-based people who all they believe is the data. I believe the data. If the data says it's true, then it's true. And then there's other people like me. I'm more, well, I believe the experts, but I also believe my instincts because I feel like I am an expert and I have been doing this a long time. And I have some instinct that makes me think, hey, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe that's not such a good idea. And then again, you believe your senses, right? Again, sight is a sense, right? I might look at it and think, I watched that. I didn't like that. I didn't like the way that looked. That offended my senses. Maybe, and again, visually, it might be like, you listen to a landing, right? What's that? That's your senses. heard the way that guy landed and I didn't like it. Someone else would be like, well, the data says you can drop from 50 inches and he's going to be fine. And you'd be like, oh, like, did you hear him hit the floor? Right. So belief is an interesting thing. And it's pretty crazy. This was a podcast that had nothing to do with strength and conditioning, but to me, all of a sudden it went boom, like it immediately clicked in my mind that, hey, this is a really good thought process.
Yeah, I think that's funny that you're saying that, because right now, I know I mentioned Peter Attia a lot lately because I listened to his book really almost twice, and I have his book and I'm using it like a textbook and highlighting and everything and listening to other stuff. But for me, it's believing an expert, and then at the same time, from the perspective of other experts, like for example, Lane Norton, or that might kind of agree with him. Lane Norton is very evidence-based, right? But I know Lane is a power lifter as well. So at least he's doing, I know Peter's doing stuff too. So that makes me feel better. And then the same thing with this idea. So he's got the evidence, he's got he's the expert, but I also feel like looking at some of the stuff, I'm like, that's kind of preaching to the choir a little bit. There's a little bit of confirmation bias in there on my part as well. I'm like, oh yeah, he's doing what we've been doing for a long time. Love it. So I think when you start to add them up, I love that. All right, Coach. Well, we'll let you go on that note. Thanks for doing this, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Dan.
What if selling upgrades wasn't just about growing more revenue? What if it was about providing the perfect customer experience? Welcome back to Naamly's Maximizing the Member Experience segment, where we delve into the strategies and tactics that elevate your business and helps you foster personalized connections at scale. Today, we're diving into the world of products complementary to your services, like supplements, protein shakes, and more. Let's explore how these can not only boost your business, but significantly enhance your members' fitness journey. Incorporating products like supplements makes wonders to your business. It's not just about additional revenue, though that's a great benefit. It's about providing your members with a holistic fitness experience. Imagine finishing a tough workout and grabbing a protein shake right at your gym. Convenient, right? But here's the catch. These products can't just sit passively on your shelves. They need to be an active part of your business and the fitness journey of your members. Let's break down how you can make this happen. First, education is key. Your staff should be knowledgeable about the products you offer. What are the benefits, who should use them, and when? Training your team to share this information in a helpful, non-salesy way can make all the difference. Next, integration into your services. Offer protein shakes as part of a post-workout recovery package, or create bundles with memberships. When members see these products as part of their fitness routine, rather than just an extra, they're more likely to engage. Consider creating a supplement of the month spotlight. This could be a great way to introduce members to new products and generate excitement. Pair this with special offers or samples to encourage trial and adoption. Now, don't forget about the power of testimonials and social proof. Share stories and testimonials from members who've seen benefits from these products. Seeing real results within their community can be a powerful motivator for others to give them a try. And if you're just starting out, well, use the product on yourself and endorse it. Nothing gives comfort to the clients more than knowing that the person they trust with their fitness goals also partakes the very same supplements. It's like you walk the talk. And here's an important tip. Make sure the products you offer align with your gym's philosophy and the needs of your members. It's not just about what sells, it's about what adds value to their fitness journey and what you believe in. Finally, presentation matters. Your product display should be inviting and accessible. Use clear, informative signage that speaks to the benefits and how these products fit into their fitness regime. An attractive, well-organized display can turn passive browsing into active interest and purchases. Incorporating supplements and protein shakes into your gym is a fantastic way to enhance the member experience. It's about offering convenience, education, and added value. With the right approach, These products just won't gather dust. They'll become an integral part of your members' fitness routine, make their experience better, and set your business up for success. All right, then, this is Sumit Seth, co-founder of Naamly. If you enjoyed this segment and are interested in getting more insights on elevating your member experience and setting your business up for success, then click the link on the Strength Coach Podcast page.
All right, guys, now time for the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment. All right, today, got a treat. We have Luka Hocevar on. He is the founder and co-owner of Vigor Ground Gym in Slovenia, as well as Vigor Ground Fitness and Performance in Seattle. He's coached and transformed over 8,000 clients in total since 2006. We talked all about his facility a lot, and success in his facility, in my book, be like the best. So if you haven't seen that, you should check that out. He's the creator of the Vigor Ground Fitness and Business Summit, one of the industry's most respected and educational events for coaches and gym owners. If you follow Luka on social media, which you probably do, he has 118,000 followers on Instagram and 214,000 subscribers on YouTube. You'll know that summit is a lot of energy. Something, if you just watch his videos, you know there's a lot of energy in his videos, and definitely lends itself to his title. He's going to be speaking at the MBSC Spring Seminar. The topic is content that educates, entertains, positions, and sells. We know he does all four of those when he's doing these videos. Luka, thanks for coming on and doing this, bud.
My pleasure, man. Always an honor and a good time. You already know that.
All right. So, not kidding when I say, I mean, anybody that goes to your Instagram or your YouTube knows there's a lot of energy that you bring to this. You talk, and I mentioned to you earlier, a lot of us get maybe 2 or 3 of these 4 things that you're talking about: educate, entertain, position, and sell. But most of us, 90% of us, are not getting all 4. And then we end up like, all right, I don't have time for this. That's what the excuse ends up being, because it is a lot of time. And I want you to talk about this because you've done 4,500 posts on Instagram. You have you almost have 2,000 videos on YouTube. So I want you to tell us how much time to spend on content when you talk about one of the most important things you should be doing is coaching, obviously, but we have to prepare what we're going to shoot, maybe write it up. We have to set up. Maybe it takes a couple takes. We have to edit it. There's captions. We have to post. We have to write copy. There's thumbnails. There's covers. So can you just talk about, I want to start off with that because I think, again, that's the number one kind of excuse. I've done it myself to stop worrying about social media stuff. How do you do it?
Okay, so I think hopefully I'll give some tips and not even just tips, I think principles that will kind of create less anxiety around this, because when you're thinking about it, when you're coaching, and again, I'm going to go back to this. The most important skill set that you have is being a great coach, which means getting people results, creating a great experience, connecting with them, right? Guiding them along the way to their Everest. Like that's it. That's what we do. Because sometimes, too, when I do these presentations, most people know in industry who I am, so they know that coaching is my main craft. But sometimes folks will go like, oh, you just create content. I'm like, actually, I coach. I still coach 20, 25 hours a week because I love coaching. But I used to be the, 50 to 60 hour a week coaching guy for a long time, by the way. The first 10 years of my career, I was doing 50 hours of training people. Like, forget about work. Work was who knows how much. But so then, from that standpoint, and I know there's a lot of coaches like, man, I coach a lot. And they go, how do you do this thing? So if we zoom out, just like anything else, what do we teach our clients? What do I tell people is, time management skills. It really it starts there, because if you go throughout the day, what tends to happen with a lot of coaches is like, hey, if I get done, or when I get done today, or I get done early, if this happens, when I have that hour before lunch, I'll shoot some content. You get to lunch, you're tired, you're like, let me eat something first. You eat something, client asks you something, coach, and it's like, it's out of the window. Then after the whole day, you're like, oh, I'm tired, blah, 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 right? So it comes down to like I call it the watch and a wallet analogy, right? You give, you're committed to your watch and your wallet. Now, what does that mean? Well, your watch is your calendar, it's your schedule. Like if I look at your schedule and it's not in your schedule, it just isn't important enough. It's that simple, and that sometimes can be can feel like a punch in the gut, because that can go for anything. Like, time with your kids, learning and studying, coaching, getting your own session in, content, right? Is it on your calendar? If it's not, it's likely not going to get done. And the wallet part just means like, where do you invest your money, right? Like, if you tell me that you're committed to, fill in the blank, there's no investment going towards that, probably not true, right? It's like, man, I don't have, I can't spend money on courses and certifications, but I see you going out 3 days a week to the bar, like, obviously your commitments are elsewhere from where you say they are. So with content, you have to lock it out. And the thing is, it does not need to be like this crazy amount of time, because first of all, look, I'm going to give you a pitch for what I believe content does. I think most people just think about, well, content is so that I can become an influencer or get more eyeballs on me, which is true. Attention is currency, right? I will say also depends what type of attention, but here's what I think. I believe, and this is why I started doing content back in the day, and it started with like writing. I was writing a lot of articles on my own site. Probably took 2 or 3 years before somebody was like, "Hey, you're a decent writer. Could you write?" I think it was Critical Bench, or I think Smitty might have asked me, and then I did some writing for Nate Green when he launched the book, and it kind of started rolling, right? Um, but again, I had to do a lot of practice, but it was like I believed back then that it can help you become a better coach and communicator, right? So you take somebody that's in the early stage of their career, and if I ask you, hey, write a 2,000-word article about, and then I don't care what it is, you coaching the squad, right? The 5 things that you think are really the most important things to get clients results. You have to sit there and you have to think, and you have to organize your thoughts, and you have to articulate them, right? So is that going to help you become better at explaining stuff to clients? 100%, right? If I give you a phone and say, hey, you got 90 seconds, I want you to break down the RDL, right? The most common 3 to 4 mistakes, how to fix them, talk to the camera, be entertaining and edutational, right? And go. So, by the way, that's the scenario in a group training session, right? Like you think about, so when I do small group mastery, I have a course, all these things where I teach people like, hey, between the warm-ups and breaking down the session, you got like 3 to 4 minutes to maybe go over 6, 7, 8 exercises, right? The base, the regression, or 2, progression, coaching cues, so on and so forth. Imagine me breaking that down, going like this. All right, guys, so today we're gonna, let's see. Well, we're gonna start with the goblet squat. That's a 10-minute explanation. Everybody's cooled down, they're pissed off. It's not a great experience. If I'm doing it, by the way, this is literally what I would do. I would practice on the phone going over like the breakdown of the session. So I would watch myself and be like, oh, I got to cut it shorter. I say too much. I say I do this too much. So I would practice it, and I would double whammy it, right? So now I'm getting better on camera, but really I'm getting better in front of people. I'm becoming a better communicator, right? So it all comes down to intent. What am I using it for? So, well, it's a double whammy here, because I want to create value and something useful for somebody who's going to be reading or watching that content. But I myself am now becoming a better communicator, right? So that's a huge pitch for me when you do content. Again, if you see organized those carousel tweets or something like that, all you're doing is you're taking a whole bunch of jumble in your head and you're organizing it into maybe 8 tweets, right? Or maybe 1. And I call it micro blogging, right? If you do on Instagram, if I make a post with a picture and there's a bunch of copy, it's a micro blog, right? It's 300 words. And that's literally what I'm doing. I'm getting better at writing, at communicating, both with the clients and possibly a prospect. So that's number 1. That's one of the things that you do with creating content. 2 is position yourself as an expert in building authority. Now, let's be real. And this is one of the things I talk about in depth in a presentation is like, you are the content. So you know what I did the first 5, 6 years of having a gym and beyond, but like I really focused on this was lunch and learns. I went to lunch and learns. I went to local businesses and talked about nutrition. I would do stuff on habit building. I would do a seminar at the gym on lifts, on like obviously correcting your lifts and making sure you don't hurt yourself, kettlebell workshops, right? I was the content in front of the people. What the internet has done is allowed me to, shoot a video and go to sleep, and in the morning, 10,000 people have watched it or whatever it may be. So I don't, it's obviously working for me while I'm doing something else. But I still believe that for brick and mortar, in-person gym owners or just coaches in general, getting in front of their local audience is one of the best ways to position yourself, right? Whether it's a people, I'd be in front of 5 folks, 50. I went to and speak at Boeing in front of hundreds of engineers, at these events at 1,000 people. But if there was 3 or 4, I'm bringing it. And the difference is that back then, a lot of it was like I would do the presentation, I'd do the lunch and learn, and that was that was it. Those people in front of me, like I usually pitch them an offer, right? Some type of front end offer. But today, when I do it, somebody can be recording me. I can be going live at the same time, right? So now the thing that I just recorded doing, I can chop it up into, actually forget about me doing it. There's software, Submagic AI, there's Opus that does it for me, right? Like it's chopping up 10 videos of me with subtitles, and I don't even have to do anything. I already did the work and recorded it. So we have it so much easier because so much of this stuff can be streamlined. But I want you to think about like the principle, right? Because I'm trying to pull out these big principles. Now, if take 10, I'm just going to talk about gym owners because I'm a gym owner. Take 10 gym owners. And, obviously public speaking is a big fear. So they don't do any public speaking. They don't really try to get in front of, camera live too much because they're afraid of public speaking. But you're doing it. And, in 6 months, you go and do 15 lunch and learns, a couple of workshops at your place, you shoot videos, and you run those videos, some traffic to those videos locally in your zip codes. What happens is that people are seeing you. You're becoming the authority and the expert in their eyes, not other people. And so now you can, again, position yourself as expert when they have a problem that comes up. Because remember, it's not like only 3 to 4% of people are ready to buy now, right? Then you got like 17% that are looking for who's going to be the person that is going to help solve their problem. There's 34% that know that they have a problem. So majority of the people are actually going to buy later in 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months. And you have to communicate with those people. You have to create value for those people. And you do that through things like, again, speaking in person, lunch and learns, putting those things on the phone, chopping up into reels. Because 3 months later, when that person's like, man, you know what? My health is in a shitter and I really got to do something about it. You come to mind and they reach out to you. And of course, we'll talk a little bit about like the call to action and the sales part as well, right? So that's number 2. Is like number 1 is you can become a better coach and communicator. Number 2 is positioning yourself as an expert and building authority in your area. 3 is having a system for generating organic leads and sales because you can turn it to ads. And I'll get to that one in a second. I think it's pretty cool. And the 4th one is, it creates opportunities for collaborations, joint venture partnerships, and much more. And like a lot of the stuff, today, and it took time. I like to be really transparent. I absolutely hate people going like, all you have to do for the next 60 days. It's like, got it. Like I started YouTube 15 years ago, right? Like, it takes time, but it'll open up doors that you don't even know. Last year I got a pretty big brand sponsorship, and it was because of my content. Like I initially got this company reached out to me, said, hey, I've been following you on YouTube. Would you like to come speak at an event? I came and spoke at an event with Venus Williams, did a really good job there. We did some follow-up stuff and then did a whole year contract as a vertical brand ambassador that will very likely renew. And, that happened through positioning, through content. And there's many, many, many more stories of things like that. Now, to come back, because I do want to, come back to this, what you brought up from the get-go, which is, okay, you're a coach. This is your main craft. It's still to this day my main craft. I do a lot of stuff, but like I still consider myself a coach at heart, right? Maybe, and if by the way, if you don't have a packed schedule yet, right? Okay, block out 30 minutes per day to shoot content. Whatever you want. Maybe it can be writing tweet type stuff. It can be short form video. It can be a little long form video. you could do every 2 to 4 weeks, you batch it and you go 3 hours. Okay. So, because the thing is, creativity is a habit. Let me repeat that. Creativity is a habit. People now, if they're around me, they go like, how the hell are you? Like, I'm coaching people and then somebody's doing exercise and I'm coaching them and I just film it. Or like, I'm actually on every Wednesday, I'm mic'd up. I forget about it. I got a kid that comes in. He's there for 2 hours. I'm coaching, probably about 15 to 20 semi-privates in a 2 to 3 hour period. And put the mic on. I legitimately forget the kid's there. And like, I'm just coaching. And we get probably 30 videos, 20 to 30 videos of completely real, unscripted, coaching. Not like, okay, I'm going to do this for the camera now, which there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, but it's completely raw. Right. And I find these clips of coaching clients, like, something that's off. And I'm like, hey, Tim, all right, look, when you're under the bar, I need you to find that position, get a little more vertical, soft knees forward. And I cut that, put subtitles through Instagram, boom, and it's up there. Right. So again, I'm trying to share examples of like, it doesn't have to be that hard, because I believe that the best thing to do as a coach at the beginning is just share solutions and be useful to clients just like yours. And, to kind of riff on one of the mistakes, when you said, what are some of the mistakes? I think coaches create content for other coaches unknowingly, right? And it's like,
Love
that person's not going to buy your stuff, or that's not the person that you're helping. Maybe eventually I have an educational business for coaches, but that's a kind of different avenue. You probably want to get more clients, right? In person or maybe even online, just like the clients that you already have. So here's one of the best things that you can do. It can be on your phone. I like handwritten stuff. So I got a journal and I write down all the problems that people come to me with. And it could be nutrition stuff. It could be sleep stuff. It could be, a lot of the training, like, hey, when I do a trap bar, this hurts. Hey, when I do this, this happens. And then I'll literally create content to solve that problem. Right. So it's something that I'm already fixing in the real world, but now I'm just communicating it through some type of avenue, whether it's written, podcast, or visual. I mean, I've definitely revert to video a lot because I think it's the most powerful thing out there right now. And I'm putting that out there. And then somebody else is going to go, oh, wow, I have that problem too. They're going to watch the video. If they do the thing that you showed them how to do and it makes it better, to me, that's what's called results in advance and relational equity, right? So that person has now gone like, oh, Luca has shown me my back is always tight on RDL, but he showed me why I did the drill. It's not tight anymore. And I feel my hamstrings and glutes more, right? So now they already are like, this person is creating value in my life, and that's relational equity. Let me follow him. Okay, boom. Now they start following more value, more value, more value. Right. And again, if they're local, at some point in time, they're like, you know what, like, this has been helpful, but I really need a coach to guide me all the way. Boom, they're hitting you up. Right. If it's online, right, they've built this relational equity with you and you're like, hey, I got 4 spots open, or I'm taking on applications again for some online coaching clients. I only do it quarterly. Here's the link. Okay, boom, ready. Right. And it's like, if your whole essentially, we're already doing it in person with our clients. Now, if we can just be a little bit more strategic and organized, we can put this online, and now a whole bunch of other people can do it. Now, again, I'm going to try to give a lot of practical tips. Hopefully you don't mind, that people can take. But like, here's another thing. To me, social media, think stories and or posts, it's like a referral on steroids. So let me explain. So I was just sharing this, right? Like, obviously you ask clients if they're okay to be videoed. Most of them are, by the way, and I'll film somebody, for example, oh my God, like Des just got a 3-rep max. Unbelievable. She started at, 135 pounds on a trap bar deadlift. She just lifted 315. Amazing. Now, if I put that in stories and tag her, is she going to share it? Absolutely.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
she's, oh my God, my coach is proud of me. This is amazing. So now 50, 100, 200, 300 of her friends see this, right? It's only a matter of time before they won't hit me up. They hit her up, right? And they go like, "Hey, is it cool like if I come to one of the sessions with you?" Right? "Oh my God, like your results are amazing." So same thing with like putting a person on in a post in a video. And I think coaches don't do this enough where just go like, "Hey, today I'm with Kimmy. Kimmy's doing this and that workout. Now we just did an exercise and here's what she did, but we made a couple of tweaks to make it better. All right, so I'm going to coach Kimmy up." Boom, and we do it, right? And I'm actually teaching the audience something that I was just teaching her. In a video, I'm going to tag her. Is she going to share the video? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? Naturally. So now, again, that's more powerful than like, ooh, I created this post for other coaches for it to try to go viral and like a funny meme or whatever. No, like you want her friends to go like, damn, like Kimmy's strong. Oh, she's had a great transformation. I love the way that he's coaching her. And I'm like, man, I need that too. And it might not be that day. It might be like 2 months from there. It might be 3 weeks from there. It might be who knows what, right? But now those people are constantly seeing their friends somewhere they're training, having a good time, getting results and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
That's the game, right? Really, the game ends up being like the thing that you already do in real life. You just capture it, encapsulate it, so that more of the world can see while you're doing other stuff. So, for example, if let's say I'm coaching, I'm gonna make real world examples, but when I was all day coaching, right? But I'd have breaks, of course, like I'm coaching from 5 a.m. to like 8, 9 a.m. Okay, then I don't have anything to like noon, maybe. I'm working on the business, but guess what? I'm shooting, some of the content that I shot, or it might have been writing at that point in time, I'm going to post it. But let's say I post a video at 10 o'clock. Okay, that video now, I start coaching at noon and then I coach later all day through. That video is now going to be seen by people while I'm doing something else, right? Let alone if I get a little bit more strategic now and I go and promote it, not for a ton, but I can promote it for $30 locally.
Yeah.
It'll get thousands of views, for me. And I always want to, when I say, for me, some things, if I put $40 behind something on Facebook because I have a big audience, they might get 500,000 views in a week, right? But I don't want to throw those numbers out there and go like, you'll get that too. But here's the thing, but you can't, even if you don't have a big audience and you promote it some, and I'll go into some tactical stuff in a little bit, like you're going to have a lot of, thousands of people locally now see you coaching somebody, getting them results, helping them out, having a good vibe. And and the thing is that is now doing the work for you while you're in person coaching other people. And that's the power, right? Like it's a double whammy. It's almost like here's my clone self helping other people out on the internet.
Yeah.
And you just have to, I think the mistake that happens is that people are like, oh, well, I'm an I don't want to be an influencer, so I got to work on this XYZ hours a day. I mean, that's an option, but the reality is not that. Like, I believe, I had this a while ago. I wrote up this thing on, I don't know, it was years ago. I said, there's coaches that post stuff on the internet, and then there's internet coaches, right? We're coaches that post stuff on the internet. That's what I believe, right?
Yeah.
And then there's some folks that don't really coach people and think about theoretical things and post them. I don't think that's the same thing. So again, it's management of time. And I've coached, I've now had a gym for 17 and a half years, counting the one in Slovenia. I've been coaching for 19 plus. And I would say, and for 11 years, I've been consulting. So meaning coaching business owners how to improve their business, marketing, sales, content, systems, fulfillment, all that good stuff. And what you find is that most people are not great with time management. So when it becomes like, I don't have time for this, it's really like, I don't manage my time well. And could you find like in 20 minutes, I can shoot like 5-6 videos, no problem, right? For content. If you batch every 2 weeks on a Sunday, take 2 to 3 hours and you have prepped stuff, right? You have prepared content because you've been writing it down throughout the week, which takes you minutes. Now in those 2 to 3 hours, I mean, you can get weeks worth of content done, right? You can batch it. And now it's like, okay, I did the next 2 weeks. I got a post per day ready, no problem. And so now when you step back and you go like, damn, okay, 20 minutes per day, 5 days a week, for example, and I'm highballing this, right? It doesn't even need to be that. And then every 2 weeks to 4 weeks, 2 to 3 hours. I guarantee you probably scroll your phone 5 times more than that in that time, right?
True.
So again, consumption versus creation. This is another thing. This is a big mistake for coaches, is that they'll go like, I don't have time to create content, but you're consuming the hell out of it all day long. And again, if you want to be like, Luca, you don't know me. Cool. All right. Pull your phone stats up. Pull up your phone stat right now and tell me what it is to say your average is on the phone per day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's probably going to, like, listen, I know mine is pretty damn high. I guarantee you, you're 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 hours. So don't tell me you can't do it, right? You just have to redirect your focus and intent. So that's the thing that I dislike hearing, because it's like you have to pick and choose, meaning the majority of all my juice for a decade went to coaching. And I'm serious, like my whole life revolved around coaching people, getting them results, and then running the gym, right? And I still found like it carved out time for content. Now, by the way, at the beginning, did I suck at this? Absolutely. I mean, you want to have some laughs, go back 15 years and watch my YouTube videos, right? I'm not even talking. I'm just like, oh, hard workout. Yeah. It's like, just, our training. It was just like recording our crazy training, and then it's like with years, and I never had a goal of being a YouTuber. It was just like, I remember I went to Ryan Lee's boot camp. I mean, most people today don't know what that is, but
yeah,
many, many, many legendary people showed up at that. And it was like, back then YouTube was, I mean, almost non-existent, and somebody did a presentation like, hey, like YouTube, it's going to be big, like you should put the stuff out there. And I had bought a flip cam and started doing stuff. Right. And it didn't, by the way, I just kept posting like here and there, and then after 3, 4, 5 years, you post a little bit more. Right. It wasn't a thing that from the get-go was like, this is going to make me money. Right.
yeah,
Neither was social media. Neither was none of that stuff. It is the long game. Right. It's the long game. That's how I look at content. But again, you can be strategic and get results today if you're like, oh, here's what I'm going to try to do with this, right? And I do want to go into some cool practical stuff that people can actually like. I like talking about principles, but I like talking about practical things.
Yeah,
that's why I'm sharing examples, because there's nothing worse than getting off of listening to something and it's like, man, that's cool. I have no idea what the hell to do now.
Yeah.
Right?
Let me rephrase. Let me just take some takeaways from here. That I love. Number one, guys, you're already doing it. You're coaching all the time. It's funny how many people early on in the podcast, when I started this podcast, it was 2007. And I had big guys on this podcast who would say, I don't know. Martin Rooney said that to me one time. He's like, what am I going to say? I'm like, are you kidding me? You're Martin Rooney, and that's, again, this is 2007, right? But, you're already doing the coaching. I love what you say about it's going to make you a better coach, because and you bring up Ryan Lee Boot Camp, I was at one of those as well. And that's why we are sitting here today. Somebody talked about YouTube. I went out and bought a camera and a Mac. And what I saw on the Mac was GarageBand. And on GarageBand, it had podcasts. And I started looking up podcasting and podcasts about podcasts. And that's what started my first podcast, which led to this podcast. And that again was 2007. But you're also I was in my basement of my house filming. I wouldn't even let my wife come down. I'm like, shut the door, don't come down. I'm filming. It was horrible. And over time, I just became super comfortable. And then, one way, if you're really afraid to put it out on social media, make them for your clients. You're already doing it in front of your clients, and send it just to your clients if you have to. So I love that piece. And I also love the time management piece. It's funny, Michael, I used to coach with Michael Hyatt. So he was my coach for a couple of years. And I went to the best year ever, and we were working on goals. And what he had to do the next year was he came up with full focus, because what he found was people weren't achieving their goals because they didn't have good time management skills. So I love that you say that. And I want to just segue that into really quick. You talk about, okay, it could be really quick. Oh, wait, one more thing. I love what you're talking about, hey, you don't have to speak to other coaches. I'm not making my videos for Mike Boyle. I forget the software, but they had what they called the one-step approach. You just need to be one step ahead of the people you're trying to teach. And if you keep that in mind, you can go out there and, it doesn't have to be something new and exciting and breaking the internet. You just have to serve and teach people. That's what you're doing this for. So I love that. But talk to me about this idea of pretty, because if somebody looks at your stuff now, they're like, oh shit, Luca, your pages look amazing. Your thumbnails on YouTube are beautiful. And if I go to your Instagram page, it looks amazing. There's good covers. Talk to me about, does it have to be pretty, like lighting, angles, cuts now, right? Versus just do it.
Yes and no. I mean, number one, look, Dave Tate's analogy of improvement. I don't know if you remember it. It goes like this: shit, suck, good, great, right? And the thing is, look, you got to start because you got to get to good and great. And that's going to take practice, and it's going to take deliberate practice. I really try, coming from basketball, I to me, that analogy is everything. Like, people will, if I talk to you and say, hey, do you play ping pong? You're like, no. What about with your left hand? Of course not. Okay, cool. If you start playing ping pong with your left hand, how is it going to be? It's going to be horrific. Okay. 30 minutes per day for the next 6 months, you practice it. How are you going to be after 6 months? Pretty good. Okay, good, right? Absolutely. Yeah. 30 minutes per day, that's it, 6 months, right? That's what this is. So you got to start, you got to, again, if you want to, because people now are like, man, you're natural at this stuff. You go on big stages and just riff and you don't care. Now, none of that's true. Like, you go back, I was so nervous in front of cameras. I was, did crappy content. I'd get in front of people and just like do that stuff like this, right? You have to practice and record and watch yourself. Like, oh man, like I need to improve this. That's how content works. It's the same thing. Break everything. If it's a skill set, to get better at the skill set, you have to practice the skill set. Outline time, again, time management to practice the skill. And we'll talk about this thing that I think holds a lot of people back, which is something called the tall poppy flower syndrome, right? But the reality is, look, I do, do you need really, really nice content and thumbnails and stuff like that? No. Is it helpful? It can be down the line. I think that higher production videos make sense for things like brand videos and some sales videos on landing pages and things like that. But content, I'll tell you my best performing video, all right? Without me trying to get emotional. So I was at home. My dad has, just had cancer surgery. He's got Parkinson's. He's at our gym in Slovenia training, and I'm training there. And my brother's girl's training him. He's doing elevated push-ups with shoulder tap. I'm just sitting there going like, man, my dad's a savage. Love this dude. Look at him, right? Like, not like always is like, here's what I can do, not what I can't do, right? And I do a video and I zoom in, right, just to him doing that. And I posted on story, said something nice. And then later on, I was just like, I made this little reel, and the reel was just from like, I'm serious. I'm sitting there drinking a smoothie at our gym, and I'm just putting like these little things under the video, which is probably 15 seconds long, right? My dad just had cancer surgery 6 months ago. He's got Parkinson's disease. He's had all these challenges. Here he is still, showing up, working out. Like, I put this little thing, and that like went viral, right? Like, and it went, 500,000, 750,000 views, 40,000 likes, whatever. And all it was like this true, like real, authentic feeling. I was like, man, this is amazing, right? That's the most watched videos. That's the least, I would say, the least edited, the least, everything, right? But it hit a lot of people. I mean, it had, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of comments of people. Like, people were like, thank you for this. My mom's going through this. My mom just passed away, right? Like, and again, like, what I'm trying to say is that if I go down the list of my, 100 most watched videos, 85 to 90 of them are like, hey, grab the phone, film me do this thing, right? But what I'm doing is I am talking to the person. I am, showing useful stuff. I am being valuable. And self-generated content continues to be statistically more watched because people believe it's more real, because it is more real than stuff that's like highly edited. Now, there's a time and a place, like for example, for YouTube where I do, edited stuff and I'm more strategic and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do these 11 squat variations other than the back squat that can help you get gains. Sure. But again, if you stop yourself from starting because you're like, listen, well, I don't have a camera guy and I don't have this and I don't have that, which by the way, when I started, it was a flip. Like, if you guys don't know what a flip cam is, Google that,
Yeah.
because the process of shooting a video, quality was shit, to then uploading it to your computer, to then doing this, it was like a process. It was like 20 times longer than now. I'm just like, hey man, do this. And I'm just videoing you real quick. And now I can, by the way, on my phone, I can do different like color edits and brightness and this and chopping it up and adding letters. Come on, it's ridiculous how simple it is today, right? You have a phone that can, like 5 years ago, this camera, if you bought just the camera from my current phone, it would be a $5,000 camera, right? But now it's in your phone. So, you just got to get started. And my filter, literally, when I'm posting content, remember, it's three things: educate, entertain, inspire, and or a mix of those, right? And then I say, is this going to be useful and valuable to the person watching it? That's my filter, right? I had a really, really bad back injury 15 years ago now. I always, some people kind of were like, oh, Luca's the mobility guy. I'm not the mobility guy. I do a lot of mobility, and I, did a ton of learning mobility because it's something that helps me on a daily basis. But I would put stuff out there and go like, hey, here's 6 drills that I do, every morning for my back to feel 90% better, right? Like, and if somebody's watching that, how many people, 82% of Americans every year have back pain in some way or another, right? Okay, so very likely some folks are like, man, yeah, my back's bugging me. Oh, 6 exercises to make your low back feel better. Boom, click, watch the video, do 2 drills and go like, damn, it is 50% better. Boom, useful, valuable, follow, thank you, right? And it's like, if you just do that every day, day in and day out, incredible things are going to happen down the line. And the thing is, and you don't have to sacrifice, like, oh, now I can't coach people. No, like that's not true. That's not true. I gave you the blueprint. By the way, I made the mistakes, right? Like I'm giving you like I was not this effective and efficient. Like my biggest superpower, and I feel still to this day, is work, right? Like I will outwork any human being on this planet. I know that sounds like aggressive, but like that's my mentality. And I just used to work so much more, right? But now, I'm like, oh, like you can be so much more effective and efficient than I was for the first 10 years of my career, where I was coaching 50 hours a week and then probably working on content for another 15 and then working on the business for another, 20 plus. And like, there's better ways. And also technology has come such a long way that now it helps us significantly where, also, by the way, look, you can, for about 12 to 15 bucks, you can get somebody to edit your reel, outside of America, right? Because economies of scale and they do a great job. So, you could get 20 reels made for 240 bucks. Right? Or again, you can plug stuff into, I could go down the list of the softwares, but Submagic AI, you can put a video in, it'll give you subtitles. It will literally allow you to tap to get B-roll in there. Opus is another one where you can put a long form YouTube video in. So I do that quite often, and it will chop it up into 10 short form, reels for you, pick them based on headlines, give you the subtitles. It's doing, I'm literally putting it in there, leaving to go coach somebody, come back, there's 10 pieces of content. I'm going to be able to use about 4 to 5 of them. Right.
Okay.
So those are types of things that like we never had, and now you have them and you can do incredible stuff with that. So, and while I'm on this point, like because I do want to touch on this and I do want to give some tactical advice, on the, how do you get, like, for instance, advertising. So I've been fortunate enough. I think there's been 5 or 6 years, and probably like 6 years now. I met Gary Vee, spent a bunch of time with him, kind of connected with the guy, and like been communicating with him throughout that time. We have some mutual friends, so he's given me some really, really good advice on definitely on the marketing and content side of things. But he was like, "Hey, like your content is your marketing," and I was like, "What do you mean by that?" And what he meant was like, when you put out content, right, it automatically tells you if the audience likes it or not. Like if I run ads, and by the way, I'm all for advertising, but you do split testing of ads, right? Like video, image, copy, this, that, the other. You know, it goes for a week and it's like 3 of the 5 don't work and you shut them down. But with content, I can create content for free. And let's say I post, 2 posts per day for the next week. And at the end of the week, I'm like, whoa, these 2 posts absolutely crushed it. Like they did 5 to 10 times better than all the others. What is that telling us? It's telling us that the audience loves that content, right? Well, now I can turn that content into an ad. I just turn it into an ad. Like, so if you go to my IG, I post a lot of like workouts of my clients and myself and like my small group. I'll be like, here's what here's the new program Tuesday small group. You see real people, 16, 18 people in real world people training, right? Okay, that post does really well. Then I just turn that post and all I do at the end is go like, hey, if you'd like to get 3 VIP small group sessions on us, DM me. But I can go even better. I can actually promote this post locally, right? Through an ad account and go click here. And it can go to Facebook lead ad. It can go to a landing page. So I actually created content that was useful to the audience. And because the audience told me that it's good, I then turned that content into an ad. Voila, right? It's literally the best way of running advertising. And that ad is showing real stuff. Like it's not like some scripted, like, picture of a girl with a towel with a kettlebell symbol. Yeah. It's like real, like me and real people. Like it's like, oh wow, that's Action Gym. Like look at these folks, they're kind of like me. And so that's, I teach a lot of this in our biz coaching because people start complicating it, and I'm like, man, like you don't have to complicate it. Like just get this in front of more people so that they see what you're doing with people just like them and helping them out. Right.
Luca, did you learn? So are you doing are you putting the ads on Facebook, or do you have somebody who's doing that for you right now? Or did you used to do that back in the day? You learned about ads and Facebook and whatever, and then now somebody does that for you?
I listen, I will have to admit, I learned it all. I am an absolutely insane and obsessive person. So
yeah.
So, when Facebook ads came out, like literally the week they came out, I've always been like, here's the thing. And I've always, for the last 18 years, I've been in masterminds, mentorships, coaching programs. I think that in all of 18 years, there's only about a year plus where I wasn't involved in something. And I still am now. Like, the goal is, that's the cheat code. The cheat code is who are people doing stuff and the best at the stuff that, that you want to learn how to do. Okay. You can spend a lot of time, money, and energy learning it, or you can just learn it from them. So that's always been my MO. And when Facebook ads came out, we actually were putting on an event back then with a guy, his name's Travis Jones, TJ, learn stuff. And those were the days where, for $300, you'd get 1,400 leads. It was like insanity. Those times will not repeat itself. But here's the thing. But that was the value of me learning it, right? That's why, like, I highly encourage you to learn stuff. Take a couple nights a week and spend that extra hour on something you want to get better at. Again, or highly encourage you get into. This is not even a pitch for my stuff. Anybody that you trust or believe or follow or you feel is a great kind of mentor for you, hire them, because it's they've made all the mistakes to help you avoid them. They're XYZ amount of steps in front of you can help you build the path, can help you like, hey, don't do this, do that, like give you more insight. It really, really is the cheat code. So I'm a big fan of that. Now, today, some of the stuff I still do myself. Some of it is outsourced, right? So the stuff that's quick that I just explained, I do myself because I'm just like, I don't, it's too fast for me to have to contact the team and go like, guys, here's what I want you to do.
Yeah.
It's so easy to do through here. It really, really is. And that's why, like, learning something goes such a long way. And by the way, learning something when it comes to content and advertising, what I found, and again, like, I've coached now, thousands of people in the gym space, right? And what you see is that somebody that doesn't understand marketing, doesn't understand copy, doesn't understand clicks, or what's a cost per lead, cost per strategy session, cost per acquisition, and then they hire a marketing company, and they're spending a lot of money, and then I'm looking at their results, and they don't know what to look for. So now they're getting gypped, right? So you have to know enough to know, like, this is good or this is not good.
Yeah.
And be clear about it. And so that's a mistake that I've seen. So I think it's worthwhile learning some of these principles and rules to go like, hey, am I okay with that? If you're paying $50 for a lead from Google, but 1 out of 3 sign up for a $450 a month thing, hell yeah, all day long, right?
Yeah.
You might be getting a $14 lead on Facebook, but it takes 15 leads before you sign somebody up, and they're only a $197 a month person, right? Like again, it's not like cookie cutter. It's not, but you just have to know enough to go like, okay, cool. Like I know my metrics, I know my KPIs, I know what's going on here. But if you don't and you outsource that, well, somebody can like take you for a spin. And there's a lot of that going on
Yeah.
now. Like, hey, well, we'll get you 100 clients in the doors in the next 45 days. I'm like, I run a gym. I couldn't, if I wanted to get 100, like if you could actually get me that many people, I couldn't even do it. It's ridiculous, right? It's
Yeah.
like these over the top, bullshit kind of like marketing strategies. So I think that like, look, I always kind of broke it down to like, there's coaching and there's the business of coaching, right? And coaching is, of course, everything from program design, being a great communicator on the floor, how you keep people accountable and follow up, customer service and experience, like all those things that are critical, right? That's what we do. It's literally like the craft. It's our vocation. The business of coaching is like now if you open up a gym or if you're scaling your business or if you're hiring people, well, that's sales, marketing, systems, fulfillment, leadership, hiring, firing, right? It's a different set of skills, right? It's not the same set of skills anymore. So I see a lot of coaches that are really good coaches, but then, don't understand marketing well or sales well. And it's like the reality is, it's like if you want to, take things to another level, you either have to learn those things, which by the way, I think if you want to be a business owner, it's a requirement. I don't think it's a requirement. If you have partners, sometimes that can be a thing that's more of a strength of a partner, right? And you find the right partners.
Yeah.
But either way, like there has to be an understanding of that, and there has to be there's a requirement of knowing those skills for you to be successful long term. And again, I even advise a lot of folks. I'm like, hey, like don't open your own gym, dude. You're killing it. Like solopreneur
Yeah.
doing it this way, that way, so on and so forth. And I'm always asking, like, why? Why would you want to do that? And sometimes the word is like more freedom. I'm like, well, so then the first 3 to 4 years, I don't know about freedom, buddy. 7 days a week. That's what but eventually, yeah, like you can. So you got to know, you got to have this clarity around it. And I think content too, like, and because I know that's kind of like the centerpiece of what we're talking about, Vigor's become a brand because I've spent, eh, uh, incredible amounts of time on the platforms that I've been on, you know, posting things, helping, educating people, so on and so forth. And when you build a brand now, like we get leads organically, nonstop. And we have a platform where I'm running advertising and getting way cheaper leads than somebody else in our area, because reality is they haven't really done much work on their social media. And you know, Google, Facebook, they're all experiential engines, right? Like they reward you for creating stuff that people want to watch and don't complain. That's part of the algorithm, right? Like when that's why when I say if I put up a post, like yesterday I put up a post and it did well organically. It got about 15,000 views on my Facebook organically, which within 24 hours is pretty damn good. Already tells me that content's really good. I put $40 behind it for a week. By day 4, it's going to be at 250,000 views. By day 6, 7, 8, it's going to be by, 500,000 views or 1 million views. It will go because Facebook is going to go like, people love this stuff. I'm going to show it more. Right.
Okay.
And so again, but part of that is the long game. So for coaches, trying to build let's use the word that everybody's using, brand, right? You want to build a brand, like that's part of what you do. Brand is really what people say about you and feel about you when you're not there, right? So, hey, what do you think about Luca? Oh man, that guy's always putting out stuff like everywhere. It's like I learned so much. Like what do you think about Vigor? What do you think about your business? And unfortunately, the a lot of businesses have a very small circle, which is there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Like I believe you can build a solid business long term. By the way, if you're a semi-private one-on-one trainer and you have 30 clients to all pay $500 a month, you're doing almost close to 200 grand a year. Do that for 20 years, be good with your money, dude. You'll be a millionaire and be fine, right?
Yeah.
Again, like I'm not telling anybody what they should do. I'm saying that, like, for a lot of people that tell me, like, I want to build a brand, it's like, why? Because it does open up doors, and you do get organic reach, and you do get all these other things. But
Yeah.
it's like, start now. But now, instead of having that little small local reach, it can get wider. Maybe it can be your city or your state, or the world or America or whatever it may be, and it creates options, right? And I'm doing a presentation actually in Raise the Bar in Dallas this next week, talking about, and I kind of stole the buckets a little bit from Stephen Bartlett. It's like he has this 5 buckets to fill these 5 buckets to be successful. I tweaked it just a little bit, and I think there's 6, and the 6th bucket is options, right? If you fill all those other 5 buckets, you get the 6th bucket pretty full, which is the bucket of options. And options are like, for example, I have a brick and mortar business. I own the building that's the gym is in, and there's 6 other tenants in that, right? Then I have a consulting business. Then I have an educational business, workshops, and now I'm launching a programming business to end user. I do speaking. I have some brands partnerships. I'm involved in some other real estate, blah, blah, blah. And listen, this is absolute, not to impress anybody, just to
Yeah.
impress upon that it's all this work and building a brand has like filled up that bucket of options for me, right? And by the way, like, I'm going to continue to fill up all these buckets to try to get more options, because options are good. Now, I think the mistake that happens is that coaches early on in their career, they're trying to do too much. I want to be, huge online. I want to coach people in person. I want to open up a gym. I want to have a brand partnership. And then you don't build enough skills to be good at anything. So I always go back to this and I say, the first 10 years of my career, I was obsessed. I still am, but I was obsessed with, I'm training people, getting the best results. So I built a reputation of like, this guy is phenomenal at getting people results in the gym, in the business side of it, that it grew, that it became successful, that it was, very profitable and cash flow positive and all those good things, right? And then when I did that for that period of time, while I was doing that, I was time managing enough to also write, create videos, so on and so forth. And it basically trickled and built up, and it compounded, it created momentum. And then at year 8 or 9, it was like I started doing consulting because so many people were reaching out to me like, hey, I want to build a business like yours. We started that. We did well with that. And then later, I would say year 12, 13, I went harder on I started chiseling out more time for content and so on and so forth. My point being is like, there is this path right now. I think that options are great, but too many options too fast, you don't develop any skill sets, right? If you haven't read, everybody should definitely read So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport, because it talks about deliberate practice and career capital. And if you're part-time coaching 12, 15 hours a week, and then doing a bunch of media, and then doing a bunch of this and doing a bunch of that, you're going to get crushed by somebody like me that was coaching 50, 60 hours a week, right? Or somebody that's dedicating XYZ amount of time to that main craft. That's just the reality. And again, look, even all my coaches and the people that I'm interested, you don't have to coach people 60 hours a week. But but I try to tell this story that, like, Kobe Bryant, I always go back to basketball because I love the analogy. Is like, Kobe, why was he one of the greatest? He's like, hey, look, I got up at 4 and I did my first training session. I went home, spent time with my family, had breakfast, and I went to my second training session at 9 to 11. And then I went home again. I did this, and that. And then I went to my third training session at 4, right? And by the end of the year, I now have like at least 3 times more sessions than, the other guy. You're in trouble, right? Or the famous story of Tony Robbins, which I'm pretty sure it's true, but it's been told a lot, right? When he was in Jim Rohn's, being kind of mentored by Jim Rohn, and Jim Rohn was like, hey, if you want to be a great speaker, you got to speak more, right? And he was doing Toastmasters and everything, and he was with a group of folks, and one of the guys was like scheduling a speaking session every month. Another one was like scheduling every week. Tony Robbins was doing like 10 per week, 2 per day a lot of times. So at the end of year 1, he had, supposedly like 300, speaking plus engagements.
Yeah.
The closest person to him was like 40 to 50, right? So now imagine doing that now for 2, 3, 4 years. You're not 5 times ahead. You're 25 times ahead. It's all exponential and compounding. Yeah. And when you have a when you have a feedback loop, it's like bye-bye, right? And I know it's something that some people don't want to hear, but I also would like to, be realistic and tell the reality of what it takes. Because it's not, look, becoming great at anything is not easy. So, I love this quote. It's like, if it's difficult, what's difficult is scarce, and what's scarce is valuable. If anybody can do it, then it's not that valuable. Meaning, right? Like, hey, can you write one email per week for 5 years straight? Actually, that's pretty damn hard, by the way. What about 3? Right? Write 3 emails. Anthony, do a podcast for 15 years, right? Like, do like, I don't know, divide like 1,800 videos on YouTube by, how many videos basically per year I did. And then you go to IG and whatever else it may be. And I've got, I actually, for the presentation, I calculated since I was 13 years old, I've spent, it's like 67,000 hours training in the gym or training other people, right? Which ends up being, because I played a lot of basketball, so I would do 2-a-days. And, and again, when I was coaching for a long time, I was coaching 10, 12-hour days in coaching. And that becomes 7.5 years. Every second of my life, I have trained or trained people, right? And again, I say this to say, like, it compounds, it takes time, and that's okay, because if you're doing something purposeful and meaningful and you can organize your time, right? And then be really intentional with your time, you can get not like a couple, like 2-3 times more done. It's like 10 times, 20 times, 30 times more, right? And I know this also from my own experience of not being effective and productive and changing those things around. And I know from coaching people that, are like, man, I'm so busy. And then we go back a week and they realize that every day they were wasting 3 to 4 hours. Every day. Like stuff that didn't move the needle on anything. And we get that a little bit better. And it's like 6 months later, they're like, I can't believe that I thought I was busy. They're like, I'm doing 4 times more and working, 30% less than I was, just being super dialed in. And you got to build that skill set.
Yeah. Another thing is that the resources are there. Like I was going to say, I remember you, look, you were always on the traincoach.com forum back in the day. Let's say 2008, 9, 10, 11, whatever it may be. I forget those years. Those are the early years. You were always on there learning, contributing, being part of the forum, right? I always say, hey, stop going on Netflix, mate. Last night I watched 45 minutes on an educational video on Power Plate. All right. I've been doing this 20 years. I'm still going and trying to learn, stick mobility. I watched their course recently. You have to keep going and then I'm listening, Michael Gervais, I'm listening to the first part of Mastery. And this is a good thing for social media. First part of Mastery is stop worrying about what other people think of you, right? 100%. Great social media advice. But I think we definitely have those resources there. You can go on Udemy or something and get a course for $15, which is what I did for some Facebook ads, learned how to do it, did a great job with it at the time. I mean, obviously, it takes a lot more than that, but from getting started, to your point, knowing at least if somebody's going to take it over, you can at least recognize whether it's good or bad. So let's finish up. I take it a lot of time. Finish up. Let's go tactics right now. And if you didn't talk about the tall poppy flower, I wrote that down. Tall poppy flower syndrome. Hey, if somebody's out there right now, they've already tried this, they've kind of given up, they're not consistent. Your kind of best tactical advice overview. Hey, here's what I want you to do for the next 60 days to get this thing going, build a habit, to start this. Really to understand about creating content that educates, entertains, positions, and sells.
All right. So let's start with this. You're going to block out some time for ideas. And sometimes ideas are just going to be what we talked about earlier, problems that your clients have and like what you can do, meaning, is it going to be a video? Is it going to be 3 mobility drills for upper back during the day to improve their shoulder mobility? Is it going to be form on certain exercises? Block out time to even, I would say, I have ideate, right? And also, what I do in that time, which my Sundays, I do this. It's literally like I could show it on my Google calendar. I follow certain accounts. I read through different articles, T Nation, so on and so forth, Elite FTS, and different sites that I have that I go to. And it also gives me ideas, but it gives me ideas like I already know the content I want to create, but it might give me a good headline. It might give me an approach. It might give me, right? I'm basically spending time with ideation so that by the time I actually have to shoot stuff, I already got like tons of fodder, right? So block out time for an hour at least, okay? And then block out time daily or weekly. Your call. You want to batch it? Maybe it's like a couple hours in a week. You have time throughout the day. I like the short daily stuff because it gives me like pressure to get a couple of videos shot, right? And then give yourself a goal to post one thing per day. And by the way, I don't know if you haven't been posting one thing per day, that's a good goal, right? Post one thing per day. And it's literally about challenging yourself to, even if you're like, oh, this is not that great, doesn't matter. Post it. Post it. Okay. Is it valuable? Is it useful? That's your filter, right? And to go, to kind of fit in this tall poppy syndrome, right? If you've ever been to a poppy flower field, they cut the flowers so they're all the same, right? If one stands out, it gets chopped down by the machine, right? And that's how we humans, basically, the tall poppy flower syndrome is like when you put yourself out there on social media, in a video, written, whatever, it's like, oh no, what if people, if people make fun of me, they judge me, they persecute me, I embarrass myself, which is one of the most, I would say, challenging things for humans, right? Socially being cast out. Well, let me give you a secret. It's going to happen, right? Whether you're rich or poor, people will judge you. Whether you're in shape or out of shape, people will judge you. Whether you're this or that, people will you get judged no matter what. So you might as well do what you're going to do. And by the way, like this is, I think Hormozy said this and it kind of stuck with me. He said, after you die about 3 to 4 months later, like nobody will be talking about you except for like really close circle of people. So the folks that you worry about what they think about you literally won't give a shit after you die, like 6 months later. But your decisions in life to basically control your life and live your life, are dictated by some folks that don't even matter, right? And so think about that. And hold on one second. Think about that now, like if you have that mentality, right? You're like, oh my, why am I not putting stuff out there? This is ridiculous. Like, Mike from work who, I won't even talk to, it doesn't really matter. The guy won't that's dictating what I put stuff out. And the thing is, when you think about it that way, hopefully it'll be, easier for you to go like, I'm trying to create something for my family, the people that matter, the people in my circles, to create an impact, to help people in this world. And I'm being stopped by somebody that might be like, oh, this is dumb, right? So don't be that tall poppy flower. Put yourself out there and knowing, like, if my intent, by the way, when I create content, I'm like, I want to help people. I want to help people. Like, I want to solve their problems. And with that, it's going to do good stuff for me. It's selfish in a way too. And that's fine. Right. So make sure, manage your time, block out time to ideate what you're going to create, block out time daily and or weekly or both to create it and post every single day. And like, don't break the cycle. Go for 60 days, go for 30 days and like, see what happens. It's kind of like anything else, right? Like exposure. How do you get overcome fears? It's exposure, right? Spiders freak me the hell out, right? First, you just stand next to it. They don't for me, but my girl does. So that's an example where it's like, she's like, I mean, she sees it, she freaks out, right? It'll be exposure is just like don't even touch it. Stand next to it, right? And then a little bit longer. Okay, just touch it and run away, right? Little by little. So this is the thing, is you do the same thing. It's uncomfortable, do it, right? After a week, it's like, you know what? There was some comments that were negative, but like most of them were positive. Okay, cool. Do it more. And you will practice the skill and you will override that kind of feeling of like, oh my God, I'm a fraud. Like you got to keep doing it. Again, it's not like it's simple. It's not easy, but I actually want you, if you listen to this podcast, do this and please like message me. Let me know that you're doing it. Let me know that you've got it done. You're 30 days in, you're 14 days in, you're 21 days, whatever it may be. And man, I'll cheer you on because again, this is beyond just content. It's like overriding our old fears of putting ourselves out there. And especially what we do in this industry. I mean, literally, this is it's a servant industry, right? It's kind of like what Danny Meyer says in Light and Hospitality. We have the service reflex, right? The hospitality reflex. Most coaches have that. And I'm proud. I mean, I think this is the best industry in the world. So I'm proud to be a coach. And I want to challenge more people to put themselves out there because that's how we help folks.
Love it. As always, over delivering. Lucas, anybody listening knows the passion you have for this stuff. So Going to be at MBSC April for the spring seminar. Guys, Luca doesn't get to the East Coast as much, right, Luca? So there's a great opportunity to see him speak. He is doing his Vigor Ground Fitness and Business Summit. We're going to have links to his websites as well. That's going to be in the fall. So, Luca, thank you so much for coming on and going over content creation. Love it. This is like a master class. You're the man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Glad to be on the show, my friend.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for episode 377 of the Strength Coach Podcast. The show notes are at strengthcoachpodcast.com. Don't forget you try strengthcoach.com out for 7 days for free. Go to mbsc.tv for that free trial as well. Special thanks to Chris Barrier and the folks over at Perform Better. The summits are coming. The lineups are all set. Thursday, we'll be doing a pre-con with Gray Cook and Lee Burton from Functional Movement Systems. There's no more Sundays. The social is still there on Friday nights. And you can check out all that information at performbetter.com. Thanks, Coach Boyle and Luca Hocevar for sharing their insights and philosophies into the world of strength and conditioning and performance enhancement and content creation. Thanks to Sumit Seth and Naamly, helping build relationships through personalized communication so your members stay longer and pay longer. Check out the show notes for Naamly's free Fitness Business Boost bundle. There's 3 gifts, a checklist, 51 ways to acquire clients without running ads. There's a cheat sheet, 12 places to look to hire star trainers, and a guide, 9 secrets to increasing retention. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. My name's Anthony Rena. Thanks for checking it out, and I'll speak to you next time.